Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Civics. We've been taking a little bit of break due to Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff over here in the States. But we're back and we're going to learn more about, we're going to start learning about elections. That's where we left off. So we're going to start talking about elections. And today we're going to talk about a specific type of election that happens nationally, and that's called the primaries. So what are the primaries exactly? Well, the primaries are elections held by individual political parties, so generally the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and these elections are held to determine who's going to be the candidate for president, senator, House member. There's tons of different primaries, but the major ones, right, are the presidential primaries. And basically, what happens is oftentimes there will be a position open that someone's going to be running for, but multiple people from within the party are interested in running for it, right? So, for instance, if we want to go back to 2020, which just happened, right? There wasn't really a Republican primary because everybody was like, they're just gonna pick Trump. Okay, but on the Democratic side, they had a primary, and they had three or four people running, and they all wanted to become, or three or four serious people who were running who wanted to become president, and then, so they had debates and they had an election to try to figure out who was going to be on the Democratic ticket, and it ended up being Joe Biden. But the VP pick for Joe Biden was Kamala Harris, and she had originally been running in the primary, so she had been running at one point as well, and then she joined up with Joe Biden afterwards. So, so these primary elections, right, are meant to kind of narrow down the field and pick one person to run for each position, each office that they're trying to fill. And so how these elections usually work, if they're just for state positions, they just happen in the individual states. But for the presidential primaries, each state has a primary election date, and they usually start during the summer, or well, a little bit before the summer, in the spring, prior of the year of the election. So it'll be in earlier spring. I'm pretty sure the first one's always Iowa. I wrote this down and then I forgot where I wrote it down. So let me look it up real quick. Yeah, Iowa primary. Boom, 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 boom. February. Okay, so they take place in February, so a little bit before spring, so end of the winter. And they're always the first one, and then they're followed by New Hampshire and a few other states. And in each state, basically, you pick between the candidates that are available for that position. So, like in this past year, there were, let's see, five candidates that won a significant chunk of the votes for the Democratic side. That was Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar. So those five people all won some things, and what they're called is delegates. So basically, the goal of this primary election is to win delegates at the national convention, and then those delegates will get to choose you to be on the ticket. Those delegates also get to talk about what's going to be on the platform and what's going to be part of the message for the party and stuff. So this is all kind of trying to figure out what the party's going to run on for that presidential election. And so each state has one, but really the ones that end up being the most important are those first 10. The first 10 primaries generally are the ones who end up deciding who's going to be the candidate. And even if it's not the first 10, they narrow it down to about 2 or 3 at that point. Oftentimes, I remember back in 2016, there was 20 people running for the Republican nomination, right? After about 4 or 5 primaries, they had that down to 4. So those first couple primaries really decide who's going to be running, okay? So those primaries are important, and they're always something interesting to watch. That's kind of the first step of our electoral process, is determining which party is running which person. Now, why are the parties running these? Well, the parties are the ones who run these, not necessarily the government. So the government, right, is the one who holds the general election, right? They're doing that, and the government does help run these primaries, but the people in charge of them, the people who are the reason they're there, right, is because of the state and or the political parties. And so the political parties partner with the government in this instance to run these elections, but they are through the parties, right? Because that's what they're for. They're not trying to actually win at this point. They're not actually going to win an office by winning this election. They're just trying to win the chance to run for the office endorsed by their party. So that's what the primaries are for. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the actual general election. So the general election, that's always in November every 4 years, or every 2 years, I guess, but the big one's every 4 years because that's when the president gets picked. And then we'll move on from there, talk about some smaller elections after that. Thank you for watching. See you later.